Imagine going into an upcoming season, excited for a fresh chance at the World Championship, but you're just 2 penalty points away from a race ban. Not the best scenario, right? Well, that's exactly the case for Pierre Gasly, who's trying to cope with the looming race ban right now. Let's kickstart this video without further ado to find out what he's planning to do about it. First, he's a few penalty points away from a race ban. Let's start by saying that Gasly got 10 penalty points over the past year, and he's lucky because 2 more of these and he'd get a race ban too, and that would be a first because since the FIA introduced super license points back in 2014, no driver has ever made it to 12 penalty points. So we don't want Gasly or any F1 driver to break the streak. And right around the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, he even accepted that it's not a great place to be. It's a delicate situation where he will probably be walking around eggshells now. On the one hand, he said it's pretty embarrassing to stand in a position where he could be banned for a race after the season he's done. On the other hand, he doesn't feel like he's been all that dangerous over the last 12 months. So a race ban would be a pretty harsh penalty for him. But again, there have been many discussions with the FIA as they try to find a solution to this mess. As for Gasly, he just wants to do all the races in 2023 and finish the season in the best way he can with AlphaTauri. Following up, he's putting a lot at stake here. Let's not forget he doesn't have any guarantee right now because, again, we do not know what will happen in 2023. On the one hand, he might end up with an amazing car fighting for the championship. On the other hand, he risks being banned for a race and gives up his hopes of grabbing the title. All in all, it's a pretty tricky situation. Now, here's the thing. Even though he's got about 10 penalty points to his name, many of his fans wouldn't call him a dangerous driver or something along those lines. About 4 of these points were for incidents that never involved other drivers, and he got another 2 for falling too far behind the safety car in Austin, plus another 2 for, let's just say, gaining an advantage of the circuit. Either way, he's already confirmed that he's spoken to the FIA, hoping to make the system a little less strict for F1 2023. And while his circumstances make it a justifiable request, do we think the FIA needs to lower its safety standards? Like, Formula 1 is a pretty dangerous sport anyway. Meanwhile, Gasly's out there talking to the FIA, trying to find solutions. For him, the regulations written at the moment seem pretty strict on the drivers and serve harsh penalties, even if it's not always related to dangerous driving. Not to mention, rivals call for change. Now, let's not forget that these penalties have massive repercussions on the teams and drivers in the championship, and Gasly hopes to have more conversations like these to find a solution before the upcoming Grand Prix, so he doesn't get banned from a race weekend. For him, it's just not the correct approach. Plus, how can he go into the next year with just 2 points over his head if you think about it? On the other hand, he needs to figure it out because even if he's hopeful, we're not too sure the FIA will agree with him. Having said that, Alfa Romeo driver Valtteri Bottas revealed that you could count on some upcoming changes to the penalty points rules next year. He says there are already a few discussions, but it's best to keep these matters private until they're sorted out. There's a lot of progress, but they don't think Gasly deserves to be in this situation. Think about it. He's literally on edge. But then again, that's the rule, and he knew about it. Following up, Alex Albon joins hands with Gasly for FIA changes. As for Alex Albon, he's got 7 penalty points to his name too. And since he's in the same boat as Gasly, he also called for changes from the FIA. He feels like he's high up there as well, saying, "I've got 3 points on my license that is down to track limits, something which is not dangerous at all and not harming any other driver or myself." Now, he's got another 2 points for a collision with Lance in Jeddah. But by the end of the race, the other drivers didn't think it was his fault. All in all, he feels he's got a lot of points on his license that he doesn't deserve. So he will keep them up for discussion and hope for a change. And let's say the FIA agrees to make changes. The drivers still have points on their licenses, right? So even if they step into next year, are the points from the previous races staying on, or are they waived? Only time will tell. They're trying to do something about it because Albon doesn't think any of them are dangerous drivers. On the other hand, he agrees that if drivers are going to go out there and do dangerous things, they need to be punished. But we have to ensure the penalty points are for dangerous things and not other situations that don't call for it. Up next, Verstappen doesn't seem to like the idea of standalone sprint races. Alright, so the third and last sprint event of 2022 reopened doors to the attraction of sprint, and the two-time world champion Max Verstappen has also been pretty critical about the concept. He's been arguing against the shorter Saturday races for quite a while now, and in Brazil, he reiterated his stance when he said that one of the major cons of the idea was that drivers were pretty reluctant to risk too much just for fear of dropping down the grid for Sunday's main race. For the world champion, it just doesn't feel like an actual race. Let's take a look at this from his perspective. He said, "There are a few points that you get, but you also know that you can't risk it because the main race is where you get the points. So since you're not doing a pit stop, you just put on the tire that will last the distance." Now, with these cars, the racing is a bit better, but on the other hand, you don't see a lot of overtaking unless there's a car out of position, or at least that's what Verstappen said, because he's not a fan of the idea. Coming up, Formula One might still be reconsidering the idea. Well, we know Verstappen isn't up for it, but F1 only recently got the go-ahead for 6 sprints in the upcoming season. So now, they've started the process of working through planning for those with the teams and the FIA. Plus, they're also going to finalize these sprint locations in the next few weeks. Formula One planned to discuss making the weekend race at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix completely standalone, and that means it's only going to be for points. Now, the Haas driver, Kevin Magnussen, said that an idea like that would be a great step and even push the drivers a bit more. And even though Verstappen raised a valid point that you're going to be risking everything in the sprint since it decides the position for Sunday, Magnussen says that maybe F1 drivers could separate that, so you can just go for it. Adding to that, F1 Managing Director of Motorsport, Ross Brawn, said the drivers were already pushing for a standalone right after the first ever sprint at Silverstone last year. And of course, the championship was open to the idea of making that happen. Finally, it all boils down to how points are awarded. Like, that's the biggest debate here anyway, right? It's probably what's making them reconsider making them standalone. With that said, Braun confirmed that they're going to be looking at how they award points and how they're going to determine the starting grid. And let's not forget, Sergio Perez dropped out at Silverstone in the sprint, and obviously, he later faced the consequences because his Sunday race was pretty compromised. It makes you think, should F1 just determine the starting order on Friday for the next 2 days? As for Verstappen, he made it pretty clear that he's open to discussing ways to make the sprints better, but for now, Braun's pretty sure that F1 will have 6 next year. But there's still a lot to figure out. Right now, we have to wait and see how it unfolds. That's a wrap for this video. What's your take on Pierre Gasly's looming race ban? And while we're at it, are you all for F1 revisiting the idea of standalone sprint races? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.